Cantos. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances.
Mataji, we
All
can't hear you. If you're ready, you can please go ahead, Mataji.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev, Guru Maharaj. I'll start with the prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chevam Narotayam Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jaye Udiraye Nistyapráyeshu Adveshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhakti Bhavati Uttam Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistike. Today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Cantos 9, Chapter 2, from text 11. Chapter 2, The Dynasty of the Son of Manus. Text 11. Therefore,
Hare Krishna,
Prasada.
Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji?
We're reading from text 16 to 32, Mataji.
Oh, text 16. Okay. Sorry, Prabhuji. Text 16. From Kursha's another son of Manu came the Kursha's dynasty, a family of Kshatriyas. The Kursha Kshatriyas were the kings of the northern direction. They were celebrated protectors of Brahmanic culture and were all firmly religious. Text 17. From the son of Manu, named Drishta, came Shistri caste called Drishta, whose members achieved the position of Brahmanas in the world. Then from the son of Manus came Narga, came Sumiti. From Sumiti came Bhutajoti, Bhuta Jyoti, and from Bhuta Jyoti came Vashu. Text 18. The son of Vashu was Pratika, whose son was Ughavan. Ughavan's son was also known as uh, Ughavan, and his daughter was Ugavati. Uh, Sundarshan married that daughter. From Narshiyatra came a son named uh, Chit, Chitsana, and from him a son named Raksha. From Raksha came Midhavina, and from Midhavina came Purna, and from Purna came Indrasena. From Indrasena came Vitihotra, and from Vitihotra came Satya Savana, and from Satya Savana came the son named Urvashana, and from Urvashana came Devadatta. From Devadatta came a son known as Agni Vasha, and who was the fire god, and Agni himself, the son who was a celebrated saint, was well known as Anya and Jatu Karnaya. Text 22. O king, from Agnyasha came a Brahmanic dynasty known as Agnivyashyana. Now that I have described the descendants of Narshanyata, let me describe the descendant of Drishta. Please hear from me now. Text 23 to 24. Drishta had a son named uh, Nabugana. This Nabugana, who was different from Nabugana described later, became a Vaishya by occupational duty. The son of Nabugana was known as Baldana. The son of Baldana was Vidyaspriti, and the son of Pramushana's son, and the Pramati, Pramatishan was Kanetra, and Kanetra's son was Kakushuya, and his son was Vivimishiti. Vivimishiti. The son of Vivimishiti was Rambha, whose son was the great and religious king, uh, Kaninitra. King, the son of Kaninitra, was the king Karnidam. From Karnidam, the son came a son named Avikitsit, and from Avikitsit, a son named Maruta, who was the emperor. The great mystic Samvatra, the son of Angari, engaged Marutra in performing his sacrifice yagna. The specific sacrificial paraphernalia of a king, Marutra, was extremely beautiful, for everything was made of gold. Indeed, no other sacrifice could compare to this. Text 28. In the sacrifices, King Indra became intoxicated by drinking a large quantity of somarasa. The Brahmanas received ample contribution, and therefore they were satisfied. For their sacrifices, the various demigods who controlled the wind offered foodstuff, and the Vishwar Devas were member of the assemblies. Maruthara's son was Dama, and Dama's son was Rajvayodhana. Rajvayodhana's son was Sudris, and his son was Nara. The text 30. The son of Nara was Kevala, and his son was Dumhumna, whose son was Bhagavana. And Bhagavana's son was Buddha, and Buddha's son was Trambindu, who became the king of the earth. The best of the Apsaras, the highly qualified girls named uh, Alambusa, accepted the similar qualified Trambindu as her husband. She gave birth to few sons and daughters known as Ilvili, yeah, Ilvilia. After the great saint uh, Varshavana, the master of mystic yoga received absolute knowledge from his father. He begotten in the womb of Ilvila the great celebrated son known as Kavir, the giver of money. Kuber, the giver of money. Uh, Tranbindu had three sons named Vishala, Sunyabandhu, and Dhumketu. Among these three, Vishala created a dynasty of constructing a palace called Vishalai. The son of Vishalai, known as Ham- Himachandra, his son was Dhumarishka, and his son was Shamayuma, whose son were Devarja and Krishva, Krishva, Krishva. Text 35 and 36. The son of Krishva was Somadatta, who performed Ashwamedha sacrifices, and those satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu. By worshipping the Supreme Lord, he achieved the most exalted post, a resident on planet to which great mystic yogis are elevated. The son of Somdatta and Sumiti, whose son was Jana Maja, Janamaja, all these kings appeared in the dynasty of Vashala, properly maintaining the celebrated position of a king, Tranabindu. Thank you, Prabhuji. Sorry about the pronunciation. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for reading the translations today. Hare Krishna Chaitanya Chandra Das Prabhuji, please accept our humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Please take over the call, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Tilbiri Mataji, for reading the translations today. I know there were a lot of tongue twisters with the names, but thank you for making the effort. Thank you, dear devotees, for joining this Monday morning. We all had a very busy weekend with many services, but it's wonderful to come back to Srimad Bhagavatam and continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 2. And the text will be going through 16 to 32. I'll start by offering my prayers. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्री नम ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीन् तारणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरम् Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So we've recently begun Canto 9 after finishing the wonderful descriptions and all the different leelas we saw in Canto 8. In Canto 9, Sri Parikshit Maharaj inquires of Sukadeva Goswami about the other different Manus. And now Sukadeva Goswami begins to describe the dynasty of Vaivasvat Manu. And in the first chapter of the ninth canto, we saw how the first progeny was described of Vaivasvat Manu. His name was Sudumna. And we saw this interesting Leela, how Sudumna enters they enter into a forest and they have the change in the gender and how the interesting sort of whole pastime takes place. And then after that, when the Sudumna retires, then we begin in chapter 2 about hearing about two other sons. Apart from Sudumna, Vivashvat Manu had 10 other sons, is what's mentioned in the beginning of the chapter. And two sons have already been described, and that was discussed, covered by S.K. Sundarachal Prabhu in the last class. The first was Prishadhara, and the second was Kavi. And they both did not have any further lineages. So now we're going to talk about the other eight dynasties or eight sons of Vaivashvata Manu. And that's why you see so many names present in today's discussion. And because it's just factual information of data, there's not much philosophy presented. So we'll just keep the class brief and touch upon some of the relevant points that Srila Prabhupada highlights. So continuing the description of the other sons of Vaivashvat Manu, it is said that the third son who's described here is Karush, another son of Manu, and from him came the Karush dynasty, which was a family of Kshatriyas. And the Kshatriyas were the kings of these particular Kshatriyas were the kings of the northern direction. And they were celebrated protectors of Brahmanical culture and were all firmly religious. So we can understand from this that with being a Kshatriya, there are some natural opulences that one acquires of being famous, but also one has to be powerful. And there are very good reasons for that also. One is that the Kshatriya king has to be powerful and famous because all the subjects that are there, they have to learn to respect and they have to learn to follow the instructions of the leader. If the leader is weak, the masses will not follow the rules and regulations strictly. It is very important for the king to project himself in a very strong fashion that everybody else is able to respect him. It's also important that the king to be powerful because in those days, which is described in the Shastras, when the king had to protect his kingdom, he would lead from the front, as an example. He would not be sitting in his kingdom and his army would be fighting at the borders of the kingdom and he would be giving instructions by messengers. He would be the first person in the battlefield, standing right in the front, proudly carrying the flag of his kingdom, but ready to give up his life in order to defend his kingdom, showing also that war was only considered when it was deemed at most necessary. Because when somebody else's somebody's own life is at stake, and then you have to fight a war, you think 100 times before fighting the war. If you have to only send somebody else to fight on behalf of you, and you're the decision maker or the leader, sometimes people think about it very cheaply. Even in these modern day warfares that are going on, just imagine if those particular countries' presidents were at the front of the battlefield, then we would have achieved peace and negotiations much sooner than what's happening right now. So that's one thing we learn about the Kshatriyas that's mentioned here in this particular shloka. The other thing Kshatriyas used to do to project their power or to show to that and the subjects that they're capable of protecting them is they used to hunt. When they used to go to hunt, they wouldn't go to hunt with a gun or a rifle and hide behind a tree and kill an animal. They used to go in front of the animal after being adequately and properly trained, a ferocious animal, and then defeat it in a one-to-one battle with it. And that was only to keep up their strength and also to reduce the quantity of ferocious animals in the forest, so that saintly people who were practicing yoga in the forest, they would be able to do it in a safe manner. In this particular way, the Kshatriya kings used to project their power, and they became famous, so that the subjects of the kingdom would strictly adhere to the principles that they followed. And what principles should they follow is what's mentioned in this particular shloka, that they were celebrated protectors of Brahmanical culture. So one of the duties of the Kshatriya kings was to ensure that the Brahmanical culture is being protected. And that is why when Vishwamitra Muni goes to Maharaj Dashrath and asks him to send, two warriors, Sri Ram and Lakshman, to the forest to protect the Vedic sacrifices that were being demolished by the Asuras. This is for particular reason that the Maharaj Dashrath couldn't refuse, because as a king, it was his duty to protect that the Brahmanical culture was going on smoothly, and all the subjects were religious. And when we hear in Canto 5 about the pastimes of Pitu Maharaj, we see how all his subjects had become so Krishna conscious, because he used to conduct the system in such a way and had so many facilities to allow the preaching to go on, that his subjects were automatically getting devotionally inclined. So this is the important role of the king, is to protect the kingdom, not just materially, economically, physically, but also to protect the kingdom spiritually by ensuring that the subjects are continuously advancing in spiritual knowledge. The other role that the kings also used to perform was to collect taxes in order to be able to serve the society properly. But they would never collect taxes from brahmanas, because brahmanas were not considered to be an income-making class. Brahmanas would only live on charity and would only give charity. So that is why the brahmanas were excluded from collecting taxes. That's why Srila Prabhupada in the purport makes an argument that the government should not be taxing ISKCON, because ISKCON is also promoting Brahmanical culture. So that is a few points that show us that how an ideal Kshatriya should be. And these also described very wonderfully by Sri Narad Muni in Canto 7. Moving on to text 17, we see that from the other son of Manu, called Dhrishta, a Kshatriya caste came Dhashta presented. But however, although they were born as Kshatriyas, this caste called Dhashta, their members achieved the position of Brahmanas in this world. So, what are the qualities? What makes one a Brahmana? So, there are certain elements that, again, Srinad Muni has elaborated in Canto 7 about what makes one a Brahmana. So, Brahmana is a person who, one, is very well versed in the scriptures, who understands the scriptures well, and who can preach the scriptures, explain the scriptures to others. And and as part of understanding the scriptures, he's also engaged in deity worship. And because of all these things, because of the ability of brahmanas to be educated in scriptures, preach scriptures, be engaged in deity worship, is why our society, ISKCON, has set up such a high standard of those devotees wanting to achieve second initiation, or a Brahman initiation, that they should demonstrate their knowledge in basic scriptures by taking exams like the Bhakti Shastri course. And then once they are done, then get adequately trained to worship the deity in the altar according to the right instructions given in the Shastras. And that's, Prabhupada has excellent reference from Srimad Bhagavatam to support this process that we have in ISKCON. The other facility that the Brahmanas would do is that they would accept charity and they would give charity. So Brahmanas, because whenever they're performing yagyas and other sacrifices to facilitate the different aspects of household life for grihasthas, the grihasthas were expected to give charity to them. And the Brahmanas would humbly accept the charity, but they would also give charity when needed to other individuals. But was also important is the Brahmanas, when they would accept charity, they would not become attached materially to those elements of charity. They would accept it as their duty in order to facilitate the process of giving for the grihasthas, but they would not accept it for their own sense enjoyment. There's a historical reference that comes in the Mahabharata when Yudhishthir Maharaj was going to conduct his Rajsuya Yagya. He sent his four brothers in four different directions, and Arjun was sent to the northern part of the country across the Himalayas. And when he went to the Himalayas, he found this abundant quantity of gold and wealth and jewels that were just lying there in the Himalayas, in a valley. And he acquired all of that and brought it back for sacrifice. And then the reference comes as why was this abundant quality of wealth just lying in a valley of fountains? And it was explained that the Brahmanas who received so much charity, they did that as acceptance because of their role, their duty to accept charity, but they would not use it and they would just go and dump it there. So Arjun, because he brought so much wealth back to be used for the sacrifice, he got the name Dhananjay, the one who acquires wealth. Um, in this particular way, we see that the Brahmanas never got attached. Even in modern day example, in our modern history, there was this example of Chanakya Pandit. Chanakya Pandit, although being the instrument in bringing Chandragupta Maurya to the power and establishing him as king, he always lived outside the kingdom in a small hermitage, even though he was the prime minister and the prime architect of Chandragupta Maurya, and Chandragupta Maurya gave him that much respect. But Chanakya Pandit never took advantage of it to achieve a materialistic position, but he maintained his simple duties as a Brahmana to continue to teach, learn, and preach the Shastras to his students. So in this particular way, we see that even though being born as a Kshatriya, this caste called Dhashta, they quickly achieved the Brahmanical qualities and the inclinations, and thus they became Brahmanas, in the position of Brahmanas in this world. So Srila Prabhupada elaborates further in some other verses that this is why it's important to consider the caste or the aptitude of a person based on their proclivities, their intentions, rather than based on their birth. In text 18 to 22, there is just references of names of the other sons of Vivashvat Manu and their particular lineages. In text 23 to 24, we see that this Dishta had a son named Nabhag, and Nabhag became a Vaishya by occupational duty. So Srila Prabhupada gives a wonderful purport here. And he describes that, see, now we've already seen in the lineage of Vivashvat Manu that people who are born as a Kshatriya, either they worked as a Kshatriya, people who are born as a Kshatriya in the Dhashtu class became a Brahmana. And now we are seeing that people who are born in this Kshatriya clan of Vivashvat Manu, Nabhag, became a Vaishya because of occupational duty. So very clearly, there's references in Shastra that um, that counteract or contradict the arguments given by the smart Brahmins that or the caste Brahmanas that one can achieve a particular caste only because of birth. And obviously, we all very familiar with how Lord Krishna has himself established the Devi Varnashram system when he quotes in Bhagavad Gita, Chatur Varnam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha. The bhag of this system or the division of the system is done on the basis of guna and karma, not on the basis of birth. Lord Krishna doesn't say birth vibhagasha, or janama vibhagasha. He says guna karma vibhagasha. So that is the Devi Varnashram system as designed by Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, if some people want to manipulate that and create their own Asuric Varnashram system, Asuric means anything done in against the principles of the Lord. Then they use that modern day caste system to their own advantage and defeat the purpose. So in this particular way, Srila Prabhupada is giving us these so many references, and we see just in one lineage of Vivashwat Manu, so many different sons or descendants took up different occupational duties based on that nature. And it's very, very well established that there was a particular process for that also. In the olden days, um, children would go into the Gurukul. And the Gurukul, they would go, they would live there, they would serve their Guru, they would learn from him. And during that whole process, the Guru would act as a mentor and he would identify the individual traits that a person had. And based on those individual traits, he would then guide them to know what to do. Now we see even in modern age, when I remember when growing up, oftentimes we were also confused. Oh, what should I take? Should I take science? Should I take economics? Should I take something else? I'm confused. I don't know what to do. Sometimes we had clarity if we had a very strong desire to become something or a very strong um, aptitude for a particular subject. But a lot of times, or most people have this lack of clarity, and we're always looking for mentors. But this mentor system was already there, established in the Gurukul. Um, Another version of that we see in modern day society, and I don't know if you've had experience, but in our schools growing up, we had called something called an aptitude test, where they would ask certain questions and you would have to give answers to them, and based on that they would sort of analyze your particular aptitude and help you make a decision about, okay, maybe your aptitude looks like it's more towards economics, maybe your aptitude is more towards arts. So in that particular way, that was the role of the guru, is to identify what the particular inclination of the disciples was. And then according to that inclination, they would get that particular role. Okay? So not just by birth. Now, Prabhupada also gives us example that if somebody is the son of a judge, it may be more easy for him to become a judge. He may have more facilities to become a judge, but just because he's the son of a judge, he cannot become a judge on his own. He has to pass the bar exam. He has to have certain years of experience and then prove to the community of lawyers that he can be elected as a judge. So, although facilities are there, if somebody is born in a particular caste, that does not automatically qualify him to become or perform functions on the caste. One still has to have the inclination to do that. And we see that the inclinations are so strong that even if one tries to change his nature, that cannot have that does not work. So we see in the Mahabharata again the example that when Karna wanted to learn the art of warfare from Parashuram, who had taken a vow of not teaching any Kshatriya in this world, Karna disguised himself as a Brahmana and went to learn from Parashuram. And he did acquire some knowledge and of weaponry and warfare from Parashuram. But at one point during the training, uh, Parashuram he was lying down in his lap taking rest, and Karna was sitting, and there was a insect or animal that bit him very sharply, so much to an extent that blood started flowing down. And finally, the blood started flowing down into Parashuram's face, and he noticed some liquid falling, and he looked and saw it was blood. And he wondered where did blood come from, and immediately got up and saw that um, Karna was bitten by something. Karna was posing as a Brahmana. As soon as he saw this, he immediately realized and claimed that you are not a Brahmana. A Brahmana would not be able to tolerate or bear so much pain. So who are you? Reveal yourself. You must be a Kshatriya. So then Karn reveals his identity as a Kshatriya, as Karn himself. And then Parashuram curses him that, but just how you cheated me, the knowledge that I have given you will also cheat you the moment you really need to use it. So during the warfare of Mahabharata, the battlefield of Mahabharata, the time when he most needed this knowledge, that knowledge was not available to him, to Karna. So in this particular way, we see that even if somebody externally wants to change their nature, they're internally inclined to something that always remains with them. So we should not externally try to work as different Kshatriyas or Brahmanas or Vaishyas, both mostly based on nature. Again, the next few shlokas just goes on to describe the different particular names that we can read. In text 32, there is a mention of a saint called Vishrava. Vishrava was the son of Pulastya Muni. And Vishrava, we would know to also be the father of Ravan. So Vishrava had two wives that I'm aware of. The first, it was mentioned over here, was Ilavila, and Ilavila was the daughter of Trinabindu, who was in the lineage of Vaivashvat Manu. And through Ilavila, the Vishrava Rishi gave birth to Kuvera. That's why Kuber was known as the cousin of Ravan. And after Ilavila, Vishrava married Kaikeshi. So in the demoniac clan, there was this desire to have progeny who would have both demoniac and Brahmanical prowess. So because of that, Kaikeshi approached Vishrava. So an Asura approached a Brahmana, and through that, a progeny, we know, Ravan and his siblings were obtained. That's one mention that I could see. And then the rest also continues to mention other names in the dynasty of Vivashvat Manu. So these are all factual details, but there's not much description. So with this, we've discussed different aspects of the Varnashram system today, and we've seen clear examples in these particular shlokas of how the Varnas are designed or estimated based on somebody's guna and karma and not on birth. We'll end our discussion today. Thank you, dear devotees. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrind ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you all devotees for joining the class today. Hare Krishna.